Hoppers is a 2026 computer animated film, directed by Daniel Chong, produced by Pixar Animation Studios, and distributed by Walt Disney Pictures. There's it centers around college freshman Mio Tanaka, who with few options left, she seeks to save a habitat known as the Glade before it is raised to make way for a bypass by the well-meaning, though industrialist Mayor Jerry, and ends up going on a very strange journey of self-discovery and showing how many twists and turns natural can take. So, as you can imagine, just that description and is very strange and does lend itself to a lot of humorous scenarios. Those and I did insinuate that, hey, when I looked at my people earlier, that was the best science fiction out of Spoli, with this being arguably there being best environmental parable since then. At the same time, it's not often you can simultaneously make your strangest and one of your most hilarious films, but also one of your most emotionally charged ones as well. Easily passing in the white contest with flying colors and provoking human emotion in terms of response. So, seeing as how a lot of it pertains to what they experience against a backdrop of higher education and learning as a whole, I think that would definitely be the ideal way to explore this on the second time around. And I once again lament that it took longer than I would have hoped to get this done, but looks like I will be getting it done. So here is how Hoppers handles higher education's experiences. Let's begin. As previously stated, when I first found out about how the projects had making on D23, the annual events, and where much of the coming attractions from the studio are shown off. I had a feeling that I was going to be intrigued by this. In fact, that feeling also persisted when I saw the final product. That being the case, is the moment I saw like an instance where they were doing the Oculus slide on a bear here and just running around in the other body, I said to myself, I can get behind this. Likewise, it's just a little bit of the Unsolved Dark Horse, Tom the Lizard, or fiddling around with the text-to-speech function on the phone. That also got the attention of Gen Z and Alpha, and naturally, who are an emerging market they're trying to take advantage of with this one being the position to take advantage of. Like, people ask, do younger generations still watch animated works, or are they just up to just random stuff out on their social feeds? I would say, why not both? On top of garnering considerable acclaim, as their work often does, as it also managed to prove that even and though they've got no issue selling only existing IPs, as of the year of our Super Mario Galaxy 2026, there is still a place for original screenplays as well, which I've argued you use your existing IPs is to fund the more experimental screenplays. And with that in mind, the film has arguably become their biggest original screenplay hit since Coco in 2017. I'm low-key excited to follow for that one, admittedly. Taking in $166 million domestically and $389 million worldwide, on a budget of $150 million. I've seen some estimates go higher, but I also really enjoy how even with that in mind, they took their time to get material right as opposed to just rushing it out for a tenor. And now I'm going to be exploring about how the story took roots. So here we go. I have heard this mentioned with other content creators as well, but it tends to be a bit more compelling for your story when it has an active lead, doing everything in the power to move the story forward, as opposed to being a more passive character who's being moved around by the story. And this movie does a great job establishing that. With Mabel Tanaka, voiced by a relative newcomer, Piper Curda. Apologize for getting that pronunciation mixed up last time. The first time we see her in both the prologue, when she's in grade school, and in the main story, as a college freshman, and age 19, after they see what she's trying to do, what she wants out of the story and how she tends to get it, and there'll definitely be a more ways to bring this about, but in every scenario, she is definitely doing her best to take initiative and do everything she can to protect the glade, which, on top of being passionate about nature, she also has a personal stake in the matter, as it's a space that she shared with her late grandmother. And again, there'll be even way to touch on this as fairly soon. But the bottom line is definitely one I appreciate. That even though her the way she carries out her aim is not always as ideal, she's always doing the best to get things done with a major conflict of the movie not just being nature versus industry, but also one of passive negotiation and versus active conflict, which we'll come back to later on. Much as how I've been doing my best to explore all manner of different kinds into work ever since I started and eventually graduated from college. This film also has a similar kind of audiovisual experimentation as well. Even though some people will admitted to liking the earlier work prints and it's more than Final One. Personally, I enjoy how it actually shares a lot of DNA, even with this Final One. Again, it's another one I take into accordance with a 2.5D, a kind of look and feel with the way the human characters are rendered, or like as well as the animals. Director Daniel Chon definitely cited he did Pompoko, another Ghibli classic, as one of the major inspirations in the film. Even though, admittedly, a lot of the ideas there, which we'll be addressing in a moment, are turned on their head, so to speak. And also how, whether it's beavers or Diane the Shark here, it's definitely he stands out visually, and given how they're one of the few studios in this business that can still navigate the line between art and commerce so nimbly, he anything from this, you can get a target for 10 spots, to, again, the crown jewel, the art book, which includes a copy of screenplay in it. A lot of seen so many revisions as they went through before we even got the one we saw. And the audio definitely has some nice touches as well, with Mark Mothersbaugh bringing the same kind of skill he brought to the band Devo, as well as other film and television work. It's fantastic. The sound design, especially enjoy every little touch, much like the animals chittering, the way, that one of her teacher's coffee mugs sets out the sprinklers and smashes into them, and just how each sound just really has a nice little bit of impact towards it, and I can definitely tell that with the acclaimed success of Spider-Verse, I still maintain that comment they made, was unjust. I mean, they definitely have been, like every other studio, forced to adapt, and they have honestly done a great job of that, personally. And I may not have jumped into the consciousness of an animatronic animal, but I can definitely verify that with the many things I've seen and heard, there are like a lot of artists actually they discovered around the same age that Mabel is in the movie, that it is a vital component of the experience, and as is Rebellion, and not just the kinds that involve of X-Wings and Corellian smugglers either. As has been another remark made by other content creators I've taken to watching entire time, more often than not, the more challenges as arrive and escalate, which definitely increase considerably over the film's runtime, the more interesting the story becomes, where the ticking clock would definitely be enough on its own to set the age with 48 hours after that, the place is officially getting raised to make way for the bypass. As it's also adds other layers, as Mabel is also in danger of failing in her classes, and also even ties into both previous points I mentioned and the next one we're bringing up, where initially she was actually roped into the Hopper's program by her homeroom teacher, Dr. Sam, and but uh, in the but with in the final film, they actually made it so she was the one that took the initiative for that, uh, which actually makes sense for her character, which I always appreciate whenever they actually rewrite entire storylines to better suit how a character behaves, and they made the right call on that one. Likewise, is is when they actually accelerate their plans and then start the demolition. They had to consult the other members of as the palm leaders. There's likewise when Mabel accidentally squishes the Pawn Queen, voiced by the he always he's implaceable Meryl Streep. It definitely and he ends up escalating things further, especially when it leads to some of the other animatronics being damaged and outing in their existence, and especially is also true with the Queen's son Titus, and like seeing as how things the Queen has, shall we say, departed, I nominate myself as a new leader. Basically, he, it definitely almost seems like whenever a game adds new objectives to who the mission, and many of which are bonuses, but also others depending on your actions and in said mission, and up to and including impressing in the mayor here to call off the bypass as using his mobile text-to-speech function as a workaround for the language barrier here, and when the mayor is subsequently usurped by Titus, part of his plan, as with everything going on in the rally, it's almost like, oh spit, now what? And another way of looking at this, which will especially be important when I get to my next point, is in many ways like a mouse navigating a maze and then being rewarded with cheese for completing it, and like how with these experiments, and that we are very much like the mice in the audience, and subsequently being rewarded with that delicious cheese, so to speak. Some might say I'm just crackers about cheese. Mm. As I point out in some of my other videos I was on these films, one thing I appreciate is the use of seven payoff and how it can also comes through in this case through character building, and where the cast definitely can be built up through specific traits. It's with the positive ones driving them through the story, and the flaws being one, things overcome in order to complete their arcs, so to speak. It, keeping things with Mabel once again, and as they show that she's able to find things out that other people would not notice, and is able to organize in a relatively short time span, even just in her human form. At the same time, she's also quite impulsive, and also has often upon missing in the bigger picture, even initially having to have the Hoppers program explained to her in relatively simple terms. She also likened it to Avatar, which Dr. Sam objects to, but is definitely has some similarities, but also differences, with which I will definitely be touching on briefly. Likewise, is her main adversary, Mayor Jenny Generosa. I see what you did there. Her voiced by John Hamm, but just thanks to charisma he had and highly acclaimed drama Madman as well as other film roles. He definitely is capable of not only of being able to forge relationships with anyone from his own mother to the dozens of Beaverton, fittingly enough, but also strikes as a person who has a habit of not actually reading the things he actually signs fully and carefully. He at least he has counsel to give him the gist of it. It's and also spends apparently a lot of time taking the screenshots the same way I do, who even cropping out how things as cleanly as they can. Still, this also is clear with the other characters, with Dr. Sam as well as her colleagues Dr. Nisha and Connor. Sam in particular, if you'll give me fulfilling my quota for her Spider-Man references, is in light of Brand New Day coming. Dr. Sam can tell that Mabel is brilliant, but she can also tell that she's lazy in a way, and where she definitely is quite clever, but also needs to apply herself that way more. And likewise, the Pond King hang of the hang with as well as the other pawn layers that have very specific archetypes as well. Loaf is easily the most chill member. He does not even object to being eaten. The second pawn rule implies that somebody involved must have seen The Lion King, and however, when he's carried downstream by rough currents, and justifiably so, as that's when Demolition of the Glade begins, he is visibly terrified. Likewise, it is clear here that the voice cast is also helping create these characters as they often do. As I say before, I'm not anti-celebrity voiceover. I'm okay with it as long as it fits the role they're going for. Or with Moynihan and having the same kind of charm as King George that he did in Saturday Night Live, as well as numerous other film and television roles. I especially enjoyed him in the 2017 version of DuckTales, where his blend of cleverness and also laid back behavior made him perfect for Louis Duck. And I also enjoy how, even though he was most easygoing, he does give way to genuine honesty about his role, as like, does he want to do things the same way his father did when he was kicked out, or does he want to forge his own path? It also parallels how Mabel is quite self-assured, but in that same scene, she really just lays out for how she feels powerless and alone when she doesn't have to be. And also one of a few examples of how this film takes ideas from Avatar and turns them on their head, whereas Colonel Kordak never stopped antagonizing Jake. Like, Mabel and Jay are able to eventually reconcile by the film's end, and which is definitely going to be the key to wrap this up as well. As much as some might like to claim otherwise, you really do never stop uh, learning in one's life, even if the ways you're doing so are not always within the confines of a classroom. And as it turns out, that is also a key tenet of this one, not just the experience represents, but also in terms of story, where again, what starts out as this a young lady, he 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 climbing trees, he's in jumping out of her shoes as she tries to jump the fence that they're building on becomes like someone calmly but confidently confronting in a doppelganger, or trying to basically use a lethal frequency against the people attending his rally. And what starts out as someone who just wants to advance and development at any cost, consequences as be danged, and actually is also willing to move forward just for simply listening, not necessarily to animals or even just to one constituent who would not stop warning him about the danger this development represents, but listening, and especially, likewise, even in what, if I will always learn, does not always satisfy me, I do try to find a way to make it work, or in a satisfying way, and also having been shown that Daniel with the he through his work as well as that of screenwriter and co-story author Jesse Andrews, whose it is certainly a one that sometimes, if I'm not always into what a director does on television, and they can often and do really well in filmmaking, and I'm eager to see actually what is done next with all these same people. Well, I'm also eager to see what else I can experience going forward, and I'm even planning to take a different direction come fall, regardless of where I am then. And this one also even rekindled my joy of just finding out more about the world around me, since I've been living in the PNW now for over 20 years now. And I definitely passed every single unit of biology and ecology when I took them, and in my experience, and you can't really make a story that really brings up things like keystone species and apex predators, and even if they are the most adorable apex predators you're likely to find, and And it's not always about saving and having everything. Sometimes it's just about like what can be lead to something even greater can start with just one place, somewhere you live and somewhere you love. And her own grandmother, her wait, who definitely was the key driving force even then as she passed, put succinctly, it's hard to feel mad when it feels like part of something big. And that is ultimately a another one. That's why this one ranks on my favorite ones I've seen this year. Here, here, it help continue with a will to keep learning and growing. I really think and hope that if we want to, we all can. Anyway, that will be all for now, and I will see you all again very soon. Take care, everyone.